Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. The Braves started a pivotal series against the Phillies yesterday. It continues tonight. It continues right now if you're watching us live at 9 o'clock. Hopefully they are up. But yesterday, a lot of exciting news. Listen, if the Braves had lost to the Phillies, up 8 games in the division, I wouldn't really care that much. I don't think it's that big of a deal. The Braves are they're not going to get chased down by the Phillies. They ended up winning. But the more important storyline was Spencer Strider and how he looked after 2 of his worst starts in the MLB. It's the first bump in the road he's really hit. He's coming back to a place where the last time the Braves played, they lost the NLDS, and Spencer Strider had one of his other worst performances in the MLB. So it was a very big storyline, and he delivered in a big way. The Phillies, they have a good lineup. They put together some hits, but they were mostly soft hits, singles, scattered out. And when the big pitches were needed, Strider looked fantastic. The big storyline was his velocity. It's been down around 96, a little over 96. We talked about it. Listen, did I hope it got up a tick? Yes. Was that the only issue? No. But it was up a tick. He looked a lot better. His slider was a lot better. I think he got 13 whiffs on 20 slider. His fastball velocity averaged 97.5, which is better than it's been the entire season, second best over a full game this season. He looked like the dominant pitcher he's been for the Braves for most of his career. Had his 300th career strikeout from the starting pitching position. All around, Braves win. Strider looks fantastic. The rest of the NL East lose. Fantastic Tuesday night for the Braves, who just can't stop rolling.
Yeah, similar to Michael Harris just being too talented to, not figure it out. That was the first time Michael Harris struggled in the majors. It was crazy. His rookie year, just like Spencer Strider, neither of them really hit any speed bump. Michael Harris found his, and now he's back to playing like the rookie of the year. And Spencer Strider seems to be how he got out of that. So I think everybody can take a big sigh of relief, because even though me and you had confidence, and a lot of Braves fans definitely had confidence Spencer Strider would figure it out, it was still in the back of your mind, like, is it going to be this start? Is it going to be this start? And it was this start. And it couldn't have come against a better team. The last time he had faced the Phillies in the NLDS, he played him this year, pitched very well against them early in the year. He got roughed up by the Phillies. Again, he was coming off that oblique injury. He hadn't pitched. That was the first time he pitched in something like a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that. It's got to feel good for Spencer Strider. I know somebody asked him. I don't remember who it is. I'm sorry I'm not giving him credit. Somebody asked him, did this start mean a little more to you from the NL, given the start from the NLDS? And he said, so I loved this answer. He said, I hate opponents equally. And I love that idea that it doesn't matter who's across from me. I want to bury your face no matter who you are. And Spencer Strider's that guy. I mean, the entire pitching staff looked great. Raciel Iglesias gave us a bit of a scare. I guess that's just who he's going to be. But listen, Kenley Jansen gave us multiple scares and ended up just being all right. And now we a year later, we're like, dang, I wish we had Kenley Jansen. And I think we'll feel the same way about Iglesias, where he'll still be rock solid when the time comes, October, September. One guy, it still just sketches me out, and I don't know how you feel about him, but Nick Anderson is continuing to get high leverage opportunities, and he's done well in them. I'm not going to say he hasn't done it. It just feels like he's on the brink of just getting blown up every single time, and it hasn't happened yet, but he scares me. Being that 8th inning guy, that setup guy, I just don't know why Snit is choosing. I mean, maybe it was the matchups last night, pitching matchups, but I don't know why AJ Minter isn't taking the 8th.
It's definitely the pitching matchups. They had a couple lefties coming up, and then a couple lefties coming up after that. And then I believe, I don't know if correct, but I think Turner might be a reverse split guys. Also, if there's any trouble, Minter's dealing with the top of the lineup in a 3-run game. So it definitely had something to do with that. I'm not in love with Nick Anderson pitching those high leverage situations, but I think as the season goes on and this bullpen gets healthy, guys like Dylan Lee, guys like Jesse Chavez come back, you maybe add a guy at the deadline. I'm not really too worried about it because I think he's going to be put in a lot less, more like 6th, 5th, 6th inning situations, 7th if you need a guy. So I'm not too worried about Nick Anderson. And hey, we can say all he wants, but he keeps putting up zeros on the scoreboard. And his numbers his advanced numbers are still really good. I know Fangraphs isn't totally a believer. We talked about that last week. But we also talked about Strider last week and how he's a competitor, dude. Like, no one's going to go in there unless he's injured. No one's going to go in there and work harder than him to figure this thing out. And which is why I said, hey, it's June. If it takes him 4 more starts to figure it out, I have complete faith that he's going to do it, because he's going to work on his mechanics tirelessly. And he's going to come out and he's going to figure it out, and he's going to figure this bump in the road. He's way too talented not to. And we saw it a little earlier than we expected, and it couldn't have come at a better time against the Phillies. And, now you have that dominant guy back. And I think that's going to give him a lot of confidence moving forward. I think he's looking at the numbers. He's looking at the velocity. He's looking at his mechanics. He talked about fixing his mechanics up going into this start. He looked a lot better. He looked confident. He never was shaken. I mean, there were plenty of moments where the Phillies could have struck. I think they were 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position, and they've got a loaded lineup. So it wasn't like they were 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position and some randoms coming up. It was Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, all with opportunities to create some space. And Strider kept shutting him down and giving his offense, which started out slow. Ranger Suarez seems to always give the Braves some troubles, but he did again yesterday. But eventually Austin Riley hit that bomb, found a little trouble, got into the Phillies bullpen, which is probably the weakest part of their team, except for their very high leverage guys. And then you struck and you scored some runs. Ronald Acuna came up with a big hit. Eddie Rosario came in off the bench with a key double. He's now like the hottest player in the majors. His OPS is up over 830 right now. It's almost insane to think about, because when you think about the weak spot in the lineup, that's probably the guy you point to, especially with Michael Harris now as hotter than Hades. So, I mean, this team's just clicking on all cylinders, and they've got a chance to put an insurmountable lead against the Phillies if they can win. If they win another one in this series, they're 9 games up. If they somehow get a sweep and get to 11 games, you can put it on. You can wrap this division up as far as the Phillies. The only team that can catch them is the Marlins, and we talked about the Marlins before. Great team, love their pitching. They still don't have the offense to do this every night. If their pitchers go through a little bit of a slump, they're going to lose. They're going to string together a lot of losses. To me, they're a slightly above 500 team. That's obviously not going to win this division. The Braves are 21 games over 500. They're not going to play 500 ball the rest of the way. They're going to play well over 500 ball. So you can basically pencil the Braves in for 95 wins just right now if they play average the rest of the season, which they probably aren't going to do. This is a team that's going to win 100 games, and it's why I felt confident. Even people commenting now, I say it every time, like, this division's over. Like, you can put a bow on it. Just enjoy it. This is the fun time for the Braves. We don't have to sweat anything. There's no nerves. We're gonna keep winning. We're gonna keep winning, and the only way someone can catch us is if you believe the Mets, who are now 13 games back, are gonna basically lose like 20 games the rest of the season. That's the only chance. They have to put together a ridiculous run. Phillies have to do something similar, and then the Marlins are going to have to do something they haven't done in 25. And since they've been a franchise, they haven't put together that many wins in a season in a row. The both times they won the World Series were out of the wild card. Like, it's just like, just enjoy it. Like, this is the fun part of the season. We don't have to sweat anything. When we get to the NLDS, it's a 5-game series. Anything can happen. It's baseball. Start sweating about that. This is the fun part, because the Braves are going to keep winning. They're clearly the best team, not only in the NL East, they're the best team in the National League, and they're flexing their muscles right now.
Yeah, I want to go back and address each thing that you just said, because I had something to say about each one. The Spencer Strider thing, we're all, happy for him. He's obviously, you said he's very anal about his, his approach to pitching. It's very ones and zeros. He's basically a robot. He was probably upset with that start, given the fact that he gave up 8 hits. And that's what makes, good guys great, is that even though getting 1% better makes you that much better. And then to the division, I still think, you just said it, the Phillies lineup is legit. They have power up and down. The pitching staff, the rotation is very, very good. We just saw Ranger Suarez dealt. He does just beat us up. I don't know how, but the Phillies I still think the Phillies are the biggest threat to the Braves division. The Marlins, I saw some stat. The Marlins are like a ridiculous amount. Like, their record in 1-run games is ridiculous.
They're 18-5.
That's crazy. That's super unsustainable, by the way.
It's not sustainable, but some of it does have to do with their pitching staff. And like I said, they're a confident bunch that's only going to get more confident. They're a young team. They haven't been, a lot of them haven't been around for the teams, for the game, for the teams that have lost 100 games, 80 games, 90 games. I really believe the Marlins have a shot at making the playoffs, especially with the expanded playoffs. And I think the Phillies, they
Could
should make
sneak
the
in.
playoffs.
Yeah, they could
They
definitely
should make
sneak
the
in.
playoffs. I still think the Mets can make the playoffs as bad as they played. I mean, it's been an absolute disaster out in New York, and you start to wonder when you stop giving them credit, because I've said the whole time they're the second best team in the division. At this point, I'd put the Phillies ahead of them. Verlander hasn't come as advertised. Scherzer hasn't been as good, but I told people before the season that, can you really rely on these guys? Can you really rely on these guys to be Cy Youngs like they've been? I mean, they're both 40 years old.
It was an interesting approach. I mean, they broke the record for payroll, and they're hardly playing better since the month of June than the A's, who have the least amount of payroll. Baseball is just weird. And listen, Braves build it, other teams buy it. The best way to win World Series has always been to build it. To win any championship, regardless, it's always sustained success. You cannot buy it. You have to build it. It comes from within. It's not only just the Mets players. It's the front office. It's everybody doesn't have that it that the Braves do. Top to bottom, Terry McGurk, Alex Anthopoulos, Brian Snicker, all the way down to the Water Boys, all love coming to Truist Park or wherever they're playing to play with each other, play for each other. That matters so much in baseball. 162 games. I mean, that's no lull. You have to, if you hate each other, your play is going to be affected. You say it time and time again, and that's one of the biggest proponents why the Braves are so good.
Yeah, I don't think it's changing. Braves are going to wrap up this NL East by, I'll say they do it by next month, and people will start to hop on. But coming up after the break, we're going to talk more Braves and MLB All-Star voting.